It really feels like we're swimming in this just incredible amount of information these days, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like every day, bam, more articles, more videos, especially with AI stuff. It's amazing, but wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, the sheer flood, you
Hmm.
called it. And just trying to sort through it all, figuring out what's actually useful, what's noise. That's the big challenge, you know?
Hmm.
It's easy to feel like you're just, well, drowning in data sometimes.
Exactly, which is
Yeah.
why I think finding people who kind of cut through that noise,
Yeah.
who have a unique way of sharing their journey,
Mm-hmm.
that feels super valuable right now.
And that leads us right to Trevor Neal. So for this deep dive, we're really going to unpack his writing style.
Okay.
We're focusing mainly on that LinkedIn article he did back on May 13th, 2025. Don't do as I say, do as AI do.
Got it.
But we'll pull in bits from his One Eye Plan newsletter, too, just to get the full picture of his kind of approach.
Right. So the mission today is really to figure out what makes his writing click.
Right.
Why is it interesting? Why does it feel different, compelling?
Yeah.
Maybe think of this as I don't know, a cheat sheet almost for seeing how one person is sharing stuff effectively in this like crazy information age. And hopefully it sparks some ideas for you listening about your own learning and sharing.
Sounds good. Let's jump in. So what hits you first when you look at how he starts, how he talks about this stuff?
For me, it's just the enthusiasm. It's palpable, especially about AI. You feel it right away.
Totally agree. He kicks off that article talking about the immense abundance of incredible information, knowledge, ideas, and opportunities from AI. You just sense his genuine excitement.
But, and this is key, I think, he immediately pairs it with something else. He admits he's almost overwhelmed.
Yes, that's so important. It's not just breathless hype, it's grounded.
It makes it relatable, right? Because who isn't feeling a bit overwhelmed?
And then his next line, yet I know instinctively that I must take action or get hopelessly left behind. Wow. That hits home, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. That feeling of, okay, I need to figure this out. But starting from that place of honesty about the overwhelm,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think that works on a reader?
It's disarming, like you said. He's not up on some pedestal. He's like, hey, I'm grappling with this too. Sharing that struggle right off the bat, it creates this instant connection, this camaraderie. You feel like you're exploring it with him, not being lectured at.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of setting the stage, that self-description he uses is fascinating.
Oh, the 70-year-old non-techie, non-designer, non-IT anything.
Right. It's such a deliberate choice of words.
It really stands out. You immediately think, okay, this isn't going to be your typical tech guru perspective.
Exactly. But then the contrast is great because right after labeling himself like that,
He dives into actually using the stuff.
yeah,
Enthusiastically.
yeah, like creating a cartoon character of himself with an AI image generator
Uh-huh, the ChatGPT one.
and a poster for his team, Wisdom's Difference Makers,
Yeah.
even a 3D diorama. It's playful.
It is, and very personal. So what's the effect, you think, of putting that non-techie label next to these fun, specific, hands-on examples?
Well, it kind of makes AI seem way less scary, doesn't it?
I think so.
If this self-described non-techie is jumping in, having fun, making stuff, it makes you think, okay, maybe I can try this. It lowers the barrier.
It really does. It suggests anyone can experiment, get results, even if it's just for, a personal project or a bit of fun. It kind of demystifies the tech.
Totally. And he builds on that. He uses these personal moments not just for fun, but to show really transformative experiences he had with AI.
That lovable AI example, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, watching it spit out, what, 1080 lines of code?
In 10 minutes, based on just a simple description. And he really emphasizes seeing it through his astonished eyes.
And he drives the point home by comparing it, right?
Right.
He says that would take in days, if not weeks before.
Or cost tens of thousands of rands or dollars.
That comparison.
Mm.
It's not just abstract talk about potential, it's concrete.
Exactly. Weeks versus 10 minutes. That kind of tangible difference makes the power feel so much more real, less theoretical.
And because he shares his own genuine amazement, it kind of rubs off on you.
It becomes infectious. You start thinking, wow, what could I do with that?
It's like he's saying, look, this happened to me. I was blown away. And that raw honesty, that builds a different kind of credibility, even before he talks about his track record.
Which he does, but subtly. He weaves it in. He mentions these experiments were sparked by him avidly following every clue mentioned in every article and video link produced in One Idea issues during 2025.
Right, and he lists them out. Issue 85, the AI reality. 84, adapt or AI. 83, Are we ready for the disruption? Going back to January's taking action issue.
What does that do, referencing his own back catalog like that?
Well, it shows he's been thinking about this consistently, right? It's not
Yeah.
just a sudden
Yeah,
interest.
depth for focus.
Yeah, and transparency, like here's my journey, here's where my thinking has been. And sure, maybe it nudges you to check out the older stuff.
Which is smart content strategy, too.
True. But mainly, it reinforces that he's been on this path, learning publicly.
And crucially, that path isn't just about his experiments. A big part of his style, maybe one of the most valuable, is how he curates stuff from other people.
Oh yeah, the Jeremy Utley example is great.
That's such a key part of his approach. He finds this tip from Utley about getting the AI to ask you questions and flags it as something valuable he learned.
And he doesn't just mention it vaguely. He shares the actual prompt Utley suggested.
Right.
Explains the thinking behind it, getting the AI to basically check its own understanding before generating stuff. For anyone who's ever stared at a blank prompt box, that's gold.
But then, typical Nell style, he takes it another step.
Uh-huh.
He uses Notebook LM, that AI research tool, to evaluate Utley's prompt. He uses AI to vet AI advice.
That's brilliant. And he shares the results, right? The 4 reasons Notebook LM thought the prompt was effective.
Yep. Leveraging AI's ability to evaluate itself, leading to better conversations, helping AI give more relevant answers, and enabling even non-tech folks to get big results, saving like thousands of days of labor.
Wow. So by sharing the tip and his process for checking it out, he's giving you more than just information. He's giving you, like, validated knowledge.
Precisely. In this sea of content, having someone act as a filter, someone who tests things out and shows their work, that's incredibly useful. He's basically saying, hey, I looked into this specific idea, and here's why it seems solid, according to another tool.
It builds trust. You feel like he's done some homework for you.
And he keeps that guide roll going, boosting other things he finds useful, like that Yuri Rebrick LinkedIn post.
Right, about YouTube being a free university for startup founders.
Yeah, and again, he doesn't just mention the idea.
He lists the specific channels Rebrick recommended that he's checking out.
Exactly. Channels about startup communities, billion-dollar brands, venture capital, what else? Inside the most powerful startup community, how I built a $1 business from this Starbucks, I failed 27 startups.
Uh-huh, yeah, quite the mix.
It shows the breadth of his own curiosity, right? And his willingness to say, hey, look over here, this person has good stuff too. He's not trying to be the only source.
That's a really good point. It feels generous. It reinforces that he's a fellow learner, constantly looking around and happy to share good finds. Like a guide pointing out different trails, not just his own path.
Definitely. And then after all this practical stuff, the tools, the curation, he does this interesting pivot, almost like that Utley prompt idea, but like bigger picture.
You mean when he asks Google AI Studio about where ideas come from?
Yeah, that felt like a real shift, didn't it? Towards something more philosophical.
It did. And the AI's answer was pretty interesting, laying out the human side experience, knowledge, thinking processes, language, emotion.
And then contrasting it with its own AI foundations, the massive data sets, the pattern matching, language structure, and crucially, the prompt itself being the trigger.
It's cool juxtaposition. Why do you think he includes that kind of abstract query in a piece that's mostly about practical AI use?
I think it elevates the whole thing. It nudges the reader to think a bit deeper. Not just, how do I use this tool, but what does this mean for creativity, for ideas themselves, whether they come from a human brain or silicon. It adds this layer of intellectual curiosity that you don't always get in, tech explainers. He's exploring the implications.
Adds depth.
Yeah.
And all these pieces, the enthusiasm, the non-techie angle, the personal stories, the curation, there's a philosophical touch. It all comes together in his wrap-up too, right? It feels very deliberate, very branded.
Totally. The call to action, asking for comments, pointing new folks to issue one idea is all it takes.
Explicitly calling himself an ideas-generating machine and co-founder of Wisdoms.
And mentioning his other work, the masterclass, Million-Dollarize Your Business Ideas, his books like Another Great Day in Africa, Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur.
It's not just self-promo, though. It feels like it reinforces that core identity, right? Constant learning, entrepreneurship, idea generation.
Exactly. It all fits. And by asking for interaction, he's building that community feel around the shared journey of exploration.
Okay, so if we boil it down, what are the core elements that make his style work so well? Why is it compelling?
I think it's that unique blend. You've got the genuine, like, infectious excitement for learning,
Right.
then the relatable, non-techie thing, but paired with actually diving in and doing stuff with the tech.
The personal stories and making things concrete.
Yes, making complex ideas feel tangible. And then crucially, that role as a curator, finding, vetting, sharing resources from others, being a guide.
Plus those little philosophical nudges.
Yeah, adding that reflective layer. It all paints a picture of this curious, approachable guy navigating this changing world alongside you.
Which loops back perfectly to where we started, with that feeling of being overwhelmed by information.
Exactly. Nell's style offers a way through that. It's accessible. It shows you don't have to be some kind of super expert to engage with new ideas, new tools.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is that sharing your own process, the aha moments, the things you find useful, even the I'm feeling overwhelmed moments, that vulnerability and openness is actually really valuable for you and for the people you share it with.
Absolutely. So, thinking about this for you, the listener, as you navigate your own learning and maybe how you share ideas, here's a thought to chew on.
How could you maybe weave together some of these threads?
Yeah, like how could you combine your own explorations, maybe curating some resources you found genuinely useful, and adding a bit of that deeper curiosity, the why behind things?
Think about something you've learned recently that really stuck with you, that made you go, huh.
hmm How could you explore that moment a bit more and maybe share that journey, your discoveries, in your own unique way? Could you be a guide for someone else through some little corner of all this information noise?